We like to think that our memories belong exclusively to our minds. We think that when an event is over, it gets packed away into a neat little psychological filing cabinet in the brain, leaving the rest of us untouched. But your brain is just the storyteller. Your body is the archive. Every boundary violation you didn't speak up against, every wave of grief you swallowed down to stay strong for someone else, every moment of sheer terror where your childhood self had to freeze just to survive, it did not vanish. If it wasn't fully felt, fully expressed, and fully metabolized at a nervous system level, that energy was driven deep into your cellular structure. It settled into your organs, your muscles, and the dense layers of your fascia. Your cells remember everything your mind has tried its best to forget. And when you step on a path of high-level energy work, you cannot just bypass that archive. You cannot overlay a beautiful visualization of cosmic light on top of a physical body that is still holding on to the muscular bracing of a 10-year-old child. Pain, chronic tightness, and energetic numbness aren't mistakes. They are simply frozen energy waiting for a sovereign presence to melt them back into flow. Today, we are talking about the exact mechanics of how to unlock that archive. So welcome to Episode 3, Somatic Reiki and Decoupling Trauma from Cellular Memory. To understand how we decouple trauma from the cells, we first have to understand how it got trapped there in the first place. When you experience an overwhelming event, your nervous system triggers a massive spike of survival energy, adrenaline, cortisol, raw life force designed to help you fight or flee. But if you cannot fight, and if you cannot flee, your body enters the freeze response. To keep that massive wave of erratic survival energy from destroying your internal organs, your primitive brain does something brilliant. It localizes it. It takes that raw, unexpressed survival loop and traps it inside a specific physical container. The muscles in that area contract. The fascia wraps around those muscle fibers and hardens, turning into a literal physical shield. Wilhelm Reich called this character armor. It is an energetic cage built out of your own physical tissue. Now, over time, that physical armor calcifies. Blood flow drops in that area, oxygen levels decrease. Esoterically, the life force current, the chi, the prana, the reiki, is completely blocked from moving through that tissue. And because that trapped energy is an incomplete survival loop, it stays active indefinitely. 10, 20, 30 years later, your chest is still physically tight because your pectoral muscles are still trying to protect your heart from a breakup that happened a decade or more away. Your lower back is completely locked up because your psoas muscle is still braced to run away from a childhood home you left 20 years ago. This is why traditional energy work can feel so temporary. If you only scan the auric field and hover your hands, you might give the client a momentary sense of peace. But the moment they stand up off your table, the hardened physical armor in their fascia immediately snaps them right back into their old trauma loops. If you want permanent transformation, you have to meet the density exactly where it lives, inside the flesh. This is where Somatic Reiki evolves and goes beyond past traditional energy healing. We do not work around the density, we work through it. The core mechanism of Somatic Reiki relies on a simple law of physics, entrainment. When two frequencies meet, the lower, denser, more chaotic frequency will naturally rise to match the higher, more stable, more coherent frequency, if the higher frequency can hold its ground. When you place your hands directly onto a client's armored tissue or onto your own body during self-healing, you are not trying to push, pull, force, or fix anything. The moment you try to force a trauma block out of the body, the primitive brain senses aggression and clamps down twice as hard to protect itself. Instead, you bring the 3 pillars we talked about in episode 1. You anchor yourself in absolute ground. You project an unshakable frequency of somatic safety, and you open a channel of high-frequency Reiki current straight through your palms. You are placing an intentional, highly concentrated, steady heat source directly underneath that block of cellular ice. As you hold your hands there, the high-frequency current begins to penetrate the hardened fascia. It begins to vibrate the calcified molecules of stored survival stress. You aren't ripping the armor off. You are bringing so much presence, warmth, and light into the space that the tissue realizes the war is over. It realizes it no longer needs to hold the shield. And as that armor begins to soften, the trapped memory decouples from the cells. This is the moment where the client might suddenly start shaking, which is the body's natural biological way of discharging trapped survival adrenaline. They might feel a sudden spike of intense physical heat as blood flow rushes back into that dead zone, or they might experience a sudden spontaneous release of tears or anger that has nothing to do with the present moment, and everything to do with the old loop that is finally being metabolized. We aren't pulling the trauma out. We are restoring the natural divine flow of the vessel. So let's practice the mechanics of the thaw right now. Wherever you are, if you are somewhere safe, I want you to bring one or both of your hands and place them firmly over your sternum, right in the center of your chest. Don't just hover your hands. Let the physical weight of your palms rest heavily against your breastbone. Take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, sending the air right down underneath your hands, expanding your chest into your palms. And as you exhale, let out a soft, low sigh. Let your chest soften. Now turn on your channel. Connect to the infinite stream of Reiki, of life force current, and let it flow down your arms and pool into the center of your palms. Feel the physical heat building between your hands and your skin. Instead of trying to clear any tightness you feel in your chest, I want you to make a commitment to that tightness. Speak directly to your tissue from your presence and say internally or out loud, I am here. I am not trying to change you. You are safe to soften. Feel the heat of your palms acting like a warm spotlight, slowly melting the outer edges of any armor, any grief, or any bracing held around your heart. Let it soften. Let it dissolve back into fluid flow. Breathe into that newly opened space. You are rewriting the archive. Now, in our next episode, we are going to take this somatic awareness and amplify it using one of the oldest tools of the shamanic lineage. We're talking about the rhythms of the drum, and I'm going to show you exactly how the physics of drumbeat alters your brainwaves to safely ground your consciousness for deep shamanic travel. Until then, stay in your bones. Peace.